The main drivers of this pretty significant surprise, both on the exports and the scale of the drop of the imports.
That's right. I mean, this was the most surprising result for exports since 2018. And the divergence between what economists said was going to happen was they were predicting a 7% decline, and the actual result, which is almost 15% rise. And I think the biggest driver for the March strength in exports was Southeast Asia. You just saw a massive jump in exports to Southeast Asia, 33-something%. And now Southeast Asia is actually, the ASEAN, 10 ASEAN countries are now China's largest export destination, exceeding the US, exceeding the EU. And obviously some of that trade is going to be going to those countries for processing and then re-export to the US and the EU and other places. But this is just a real change in the destination of Chinese trade, and it's really showing that the inter-Asian trade is really driving. Well, one of the things that's really driving what's happening today. We saw South Korea exports to South Korea are also up, and so even though the US is weakening and US demand is weakening, and we saw exports to the US fall, it was these other places around the world, South America, Africa, for example, which were really driving this huge spike in export demand for China. And obviously imports were not as weak as we expected as well, which is a good sign for both China and the world. It shows that China's economy is not slowing as much as we expected it was, and so going forward, if that's sustained, it's going to be great for commodity exporting countries like Australia, and it's also going to be better for the Chinese economy and also for Chinese demand for things like Louis Vuitton handbags, which you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, Louis Vuitton handbag, champagne, pick your poison this early in the morning. James, look, we're going to talk to a reporter a bit when it comes to this India Apple story, but the truth is that there is pressure for companies to move away from China. Given all of that, are these types of trade figures likely to be sustained?
I mean, on the margins, those kind of moves, they're happening where people are moving production to India or moving production to Vietnam or various things, is obviously going to affect Chinese trade numbers. And it's not just companies like Foxconn, which makes the iPhone, that's doing that. There are also Chinese companies that are shifting production to South America, to Mexico, to take advantage of the NAFTA free trade agreement or to get around US tariffs. So there is going to be some effect on Chinese exports from this. But this is not a short-term process. It takes years to set up a supply chain for iPhones, and some of the initial reporting out of the India factories for Foxconn and the other companies were saying they were having a lot of trouble getting up to the levels of accuracy and quality that the Chinese manufacturers manufacturing in China has. So yes, this will affect it, but it's not going to affect it in 3 months or 6 months. It's really going to take a much longer time for there to be real change in what you see in the Chinese export data.